Turns out that my second favourite Democrat might not be a Democrat for that much longer. So this is RFK, who I've done a couple of segments on at this point. He's come out with an announcement, and put your best Sherlock Holmes hat on if you can figure out what he's about to announce. Let's play this.
I'm not going to tell you right now exactly what that announcement will be. I can say, though, that if you've been waiting to come to one of my public events, this will be the one to come to. I'll be speaking about a sea change in American politics and what your part and my part is in that change. A lot of Americans who had previously given up any hope that real change would ever come through the American electoral process have begun to find new hope in my candidacy. And I understand the deeply felt concern that people have about the way corruption has overtaken our government. It's in the executive branch, it's in Congress, it's in the leadership of both political parties. And so some people feel a kind of cynicism alongside the hope, or they lose hope entirely because they've been disappointed so many times. I want to tell you now what I've come to understand after 6 months of campaigning. There is a path to victory. The hope we are feeling isn't some kind of trick of the mind. We all recognize that there's a genuine possibility of national transformation, and its source is the goodness of the American people. Our government may be crooked, but our people are kind, brave, and caring. That goodness is stronger than the divisions that are keeping us all apart. I see it every day on the campaign trail, and the more I see it, the more I trust it. And the more I trust it, the more the path to victory becomes visible. So how are we going to win against the established Washington interests? It's not through playing the game by the corrupt rules that the corrupt powers and the vested interests have rigged to keep us all in their thrall. Instead, we're going to have to rewrite the assumptions and change the habits of American politics.
I mean, good luck to him.
Yeah,
I agree. But
so
what did they do to us? Is his grandfather or uncle?
Well, no, his uncle was, of course, JFK.
Yeah.
Who was shot by the CIA.
Yeah.
And his father.
Yeah.
Then ran shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
His father immediately accused the
crash?
CIA of killing his brother.
Yeah. Didn't he die in a car crash or something mysterious?
No, his father won the nominee, the Democrat nominee. Well, a stage towards becoming the Democrat nominee. And the official story that he was shot 13 times by a Palestinian.
Oh yeah,
with a gun that held 7 shots.
Right. Well, there we go.
Yeah. So basically CIA again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like RFK is going to go independent or possibly third party. That's what I took from that. It's I don't think you need to be Sherlock Holmes to figure out that he's basically saying, you can't win through the rigged system, uniparty system. He's not going to be allowed to win through that.
Yeah.
So he's going to go third party, or he's going to go Libertarian candidate. Now,
he's not a Libertarian though.
Yeah, so I did want to discuss that, why that is a strong possibility.
Right.
To be fair, he's a hell of a lot more Libertarian than, by some considerable margin, of the average point of Washington.
Well, sure, he doesn't want you to be forced into a medical procedure against your will.
Yes,
that,
there was that.
That wasn't really a libertarian position. That was a normal Western democratic position.
Yeah. But I mean, either way he goes, his surname is Kennedy.
Yeah.
And if he's on the ticket, and it's, let's say it's Biden, Trump, Kennedy, what does that do?
He's at least going to guarantee Trump wins it.
Well, the absence of fortification will guarantee Trump winning, but yeah, it might make the fortification so unfeasible. Yeah,
is that a reason for a CIA trifecta?
Well, this is the question.
The thing is, if they do it again,
do we think they won't? Do we think they're above that now? I mean,
oh no, they are not above it. No, they are not above it.
They really seem to have it out for the Kennedys generally, don't they?
Yeah.
So.
To be fair, maybe if they thought they could get away with it in this day and age, they would have already done it to Trump. I don't know. But I think he is a much bigger threat than Trump to the system, and I'll come on to explain why. Oh, and I'll just cover that point about the independent versus the libertarian thing.
Yeah.
So arguments for going libertarian, which I don't think he's going to do. So I would place a large wager on me being right that on Monday he's going to come out and announce that he's running third party or libertarian.
Yeah.
The argument for independent is he has raised a lot of money. He's got
Like how
incredibly
much?
strong name recognition, and he's got a really strong activist base.
How much money has he raised?
I can't remember now, but it's a lot. He
Tens of millions of dollars.
yeah, something like that. I'd have to check to see
Yeah.
what it came out. But he's raised a lot of money, and with a name like Kennedy, he's going to be able to raise
yeah.
a lot more. And he's got a really strong activist base. He excites the activists so he can get people out.
He actually has the sort of Kennedy sincerity as well,
Yes.
which is very powerful.
Yeah.
And you can see Americans
Yeah.
like being enchanted by it,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
good. You know?
Oh, he's a good politician. I'll give him that. But I'll tell you what Libertarian Party gives you: national ballot status.
Yeah.
So if you go independent, it is very difficult to even get on the ballot in all 50 states.
Yeah, the Libertarian Party at least has an infrastructure in place.
Yes. Well, my understanding is that their national infrastructure is actually quite weak,
Well, it doubtless is, but at least they've got it. You know?
but they've got national ballot status, and that is a huge thing to sort of to get on there. So then I thought it's worth having a chat about Kennedy, the man himself. Because there are some strong evidence. I've done a couple of segments on the guy so far, and the people in the comments are always quick to point out one or two things that are genuinely unattractive to folks like us. Environmental, he's a bit woo on the environmental stuff. To be fair, most of his environmental stuff is actually because he was an environmental lawyer,
right.
So actually most of the time he goes after like polluting factories, mercury factories,
the
pumping
stuff
out.
everyone likes.
Yeah, so I nobody has a problem with that stuff.
But is he going to ban internal flights in the United States?
Is he going to build a railway to Hawaii?
Yeah, so there are some clips of him when he from 10 years ago when he was saying some silly stuff around what he would do to people who deny climate change and stuff like that.
Worse than YouTube.
Yeah, I get the impression that he's calmed down on a lot of that stuff.
Oh, good.
But there are those sort of clips out there of him being a little bit over the top when it comes to the environmental stuff. So that is a negative. So we got to note that. Abortion, he is a Democrat.
Yeah.
So he's got the Democrat line on abortion. Now, to be fair, I reckon he probably leave it alone from where it currently is, which is the states decide. And actually, I'm kind of more or less happy with that because it kind of should be the states deciding.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm not going to make a joke about Democrats and states' rights. But we've been here before. That's all I'm saying. We've seen this argument play out in America.
Yeah. So I mean,
So I'm not sure it holds up, to be honest.
Yeah. So he's a Democrat of all the pro-abortion.
It's time for the Republicans to take them. Just all I'm saying is,
say it, Carl. Say it.
Republicans have a history of imposing the right thing on Democrat states, right? They have a genuine tradition of this in America.
I believe in property rights. So,
well, listen, you Democrat. I believe in the moral absolute that no man should be a slave.
Look, certain populations belong to the Democratic Party. That's their property.
Just saying, Republicans.
But it's actually their position, though.
I know, but Republicans, you've won this war before, so just say.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, carry on.
But I mean, it's basically out of the federal government's hands at this point. So again, I'm somewhat relaxed on that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Also, he's got a very mid-understanding of economics. Like he just doesn't get the threat that the deficits are.
Of course, he's got a Democrat understanding of economics.
Yeah, well, because by definition, you wouldn't be a Democrat if you.
Yeah, I mean, he's a Democrat.
Understood economics.
Like he's gonna have like, I bet his stuff is all basically Bill Clinton, right?
Yeah, I mean When people ask him about the deficits, he basically says, "Well, I'm going to shut down the military-industrial complex, and that will save us $1 trillion."
Oh, yeah,
which isn't wrong, and it would.
But he's not going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, $1 trillion at this point is basically interest payments.
Sure, but he's also not going to shut down the military-industrial complex.
He would definitely go after aspects of it because that's his big thing.
No, but I mean,
yeah, I mean, he's not going to.
Yeah, he can go after.
We're
whatever.
assuming he doesn't die.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yes.
But this is why the other Kennedys died.
I'm not saying you're not wrong, but
don't
get me wrong. Godspeed, but like it's not happening.
To be fair, his life insurance quotes must be eye-watering.
Yeah, right.
You should do that for a laugh. Just tweet whenever they quote him.
Should we?
Oh, sorry. Are you going to say we should take out a bet on him? And then see what the bookies give us?
No, I'm just thinking after the show, going on to an American, Let's Compare website and basically put in his details and see what the quote comes back as.
Surname Kennedy.
Any risk factors? Yes.
7 million a year.
The CIA keep taking out male members of my family.
Yeah.
So, right. So positives of RFK. He wants to go after regulatory capture.
Okay.
That is a strong plus for me. So that's basically, well, the farmer stuff about how they control the regulatory side as well as, but he wants to do that across the board on the regulatory stuff. So that is a really strong positive as far as I'm concerned. He's very anti-big pharma.
Okay.
I mean, he's basically in a war with them for the last 2 years of him going on about the thing that happened. But the
event.
You know what I mean. He's going after that. He's anti-war, which is incredibly rare for a Democrat. I mean, normally Democrats are just like, if as soon as they find out there's a brown country on the map, they want to bomb it.
Yep.
And he is not in favor of that, so that's very good. He's anti-CIA.
I can imagine he would be.
Yeah, which basically feeds the top of the funnel for the war machine.
Yep.
So, like, it's a bit like with us. The only reason we're still on YouTube is because it feeds the top of the funnel, and with these guys, the CIA feeds the top of the funnel for the war machine. So, and he wants to. I don't think he wants to shut the entire thing down, just most of it, which I think is a pretty strong plus.
He's not going to scatter it to the winds, then.
So he
maybe he's just softened the rhetoric.
No, his argument is that there are certain divisions of it, some of which does sensible bits, and there's other bits which he wants to close down entirely.
He just walks into the building one day in Langley or wherever it is with a rifle. It's just like, this is for my uncle.
You've had this a long time. My dad. He's had this a long time coming.
Yes.
He's got an extended magazine. It's like, only 7 bullets, I swear.
Yes.
There's only one gunman this time.
Or
just 13 top positions will disappear after Robert Kennedy walks in with a 7 magazine.
Just invite the director to a meeting in Texas, Dallas.
Yeah.
And it's all right, I'll send a car for you.
It's just a small motorcade. Don't worry about it.
Oh, God. I mean, he doesn't even shoot him, just does that. Anyway, it just stands at the book depository waving. just for the stunt.
He's also anti-military industrial complex, as we talked about, and he's anti-Fed. Now, that list, for me, that's a bloody strong list.
That is, but then you're going to get people on the Republican side saying, okay, what about gun control? And he's going to have the Democrat view on gun control.
Yeah, but...
What about urban crime?
Yeah, but what...
Yeah, I care about urban crime.
So this is the thing, right? So this is the thing.
Got to have a way of ruling the libs.
He's not the perfect candidate. He's not the perfect candidate that we would design if we had what's the 80s film where they got to design the perfect girlfriend. If we got to design the perfect president, we would not design him.
Yeah.
But what we've actually got is a list of trade-off on various candidates, and I really bloody like this list. So let me just repeat: regulatory capture, big pharma, anti-war, anti-CIA, military-industrial complex, and anti-Fed.
That's all good stuff.
That is basically the top of my list.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'd like to get to inner city crime at some point, but it is Democrats voting for it and living there, and they could just move at any time. So it's not the top of the priority list for me. And some of the other stuff. So
stopping the whole country from collapsing is a bit higher than fixing the internals.
Well, yeah, but it's not the whole country. It's
I don't even know if this prevents.
No, I mean your
collapsing.
Stuff about the wars, the money, the stuff that actually will make the dollar worth zero.
Yeah.
I can see your argument.
Yeah, I think those are incredibly strong.
Because if the dollar goes to zero, then everything's gone.
Yes.
Thing is, isn't the counter argument to this being like, well, if we don't maintain a strong military, we can't maintain the dollar as the world reserve currency, and therefore the dollar loses value because other people are just like, we don't care, and there would be nothing we could do about it, and therefore we'd ruin ourselves by going down this road.
But what is a strong military? Is a strong military the ability to defend yourself, or the ability to provoke a war and then prolong it as long as possible?
It depends if you're the world hegemon or not.
Yeah,
you just need to win your wars. You just need to win your wars, not make them last forever on purpose.
Well, that's not necessarily
and for a start, only pick wars that you actually need to fight.
Well, so that's not necessarily true, because I mean, like, America loses lots of wars and is still in the dominant place. Because you just need to be able to win the wars against the other major powers, right? Other wars are not really that important, and it doesn't really matter to you if you're bogged down because you can just print infinite money. Like, they don't care.
I know they don't. I'm saying that's kind of one of the things that will end up destroying the entire system.
Sure, I'm not saying I'm in favor of it, but like I don't know if that's going to actually destroy the system. That's the thing, because they've been doing
printing infinite money.
Yeah, but they've been doing this for decades.
Okay.
Literally decades. So, like, I don't know. I think as long as they've got the overwhelming military force, then it's kind of inevitable that everyone kind of has to admit, okay, well, they're going to be calling the shots, right? And it's when that's dismantled and they can be physically challenged on the battlefield, then things change.
But
And
like the entire military might of the United States depends on their economy.
Yeah.
And if the dollar becomes the Zimbabwe dollar, like they actually don't have any advantage.
Yeah,
That's why they're so cool. Because you run any simulation of a Chinese Navy versus
Sure.
US Navy, and the US just trounces
of
them
course.
because of the technology, which
Yeah.
is because of the money.
Yeah.
So to Callum's point there, you're a civilization player. Military power always follows an economic power.
Sure. But what I'm saying is the United States in a position where they have the economic domination of the entire world because everyone is forced to buy dollars. They're forced to buy dollars because the US has the military. And as soon as you dismantle the military, they won't be forced to buy dollars. That will unravel the whole thing.
Which is stronger? A strong military that you don't actually have to use, or a military where you are incentivized because of the incentive flow beneath it, the military-industrial complex, to constantly be involved in a war and never actually win it, but always prolong it as long as possible. So the Julian Assange line is that the purpose of the US war machine is not to win wars, it's to prolong them.
Yes. Now, I'm not in favor of this, but the argument will be made. In fact, I honestly...
So he's not saying he's going to dissolve the military.
I know. But the vested interests that underpin it will diminish the military somewhat. That removing them is going to diminish the machine itself.
I actually think if you undermine the military-industrial complex, you'll make the military far, far stronger.
I don't know. I mean, maybe
the military-industrial complex is something different. It's the lobbyists. It's the backpedalers behind it.
I know. But it's hard to describe what I'm trying to say. But I think there is a kind of effect, a kind of rolling effect that comes from the thing being in existence that couldn't have happened in other eras because the United States wasn't able to gain this kind of military dominance. But now they have it. Essentially, I can't see how it could really be to anyone's benefit to abandon it. Now, you'll say, well, we're not going to get rid of the military, but the reason the military is consistently such a big priority is because of the lobbying.
I really do separate the military-industrial complex from the military. I think the military-industrial complex is a rot, is a cancer within it.
Sure, and I'm not saying it's not either, but it definitely has some effect, and that effect is making sure the military is unbelievably well funded and has things to do, right? Because another thing is nobody wants an idle military. You know, like it's not good for anyone really to have a large, just standing army.
Well, America survives war to war at this point.
Well, yeah, exactly. But
it is better to have a large military that you don't actually use that much than one that you use all the time.
You wouldn't have a large military if you didn't
against the Taliban.
You wouldn't have a large military if you didn't use it. The global hegemon is always engaged in wars, right? Every single one. The British Empire, the Roman Empire, the American Empire, right? That is just the nature of being the global hegemon. You are always engaged in a war somewhere with someone. It's just that most of the time it's someone very far away and pretty inconsequential, right? So that's always going to be the case, and you can't be the global hegemon without being in a perpetual war. So that's something that just has to be accepted. Like I said, I'm not in favor of the military-industrial complex. It's just these are the arguments that are going to be made in reverse. Because if the US military suddenly goes through a prolonged period of peace, it will be very weak, right? It's the constant sharpening of itself in actions. Now, I mean, you can say,
surely the US military is not stronger for having involved itself in Afghanistan and being shown to run away with its tails between its legs.
The thing is, it wasn't because the military was defeated, right? It's the will that underpins the military that's constantly being defeated.
Yeah, and I would wrap that up on that
Same
whole
with Iraq.
Washington swamp military-industrial complex.
It's not just that. It's the American doctrine of human rights is the reason the American military loses wars, right? Because, I mean, the American military doesn't lack for manpower, money, resources, guns, methods of killing. And if
they
this
could kill literally everyone in Afghanistan and then repopulated it,
and this is
morals stop them.
And this is what the Romans would have done. And this is what they did to Gaul. You know, they just killed everyone there and then just resettled with their own because they didn't have a doctrine of human rights. The Americans are totally restrained by this. And so when another great power is like, right, we're going to deploy 200,000 men in 50 tanks or whatever, the Americans are going, oh, finally, absolutely. This is what they had with the Vietnam War, is that the Viet Congs wouldn't commit to a battle. It's like, well, of course, why would they? You know, why would a bunch of bloody rice farmers with rifles commit to a set piece battle with you? You know, that's obviously the only thing they can...
you don't want to fight on their terms.
Exactly.
Because they win.
Exactly. And so that power in the military is sustained by the military-industrial complex because it's constantly got a reason to do what it does. And this cows every other great power. Like the Russians and the Chinese, they don't want to fight the Americans in the Pacific. They don't want to have a stand.
I think those. I think.
Now, I'm not saying that means the military-industrial complex good or anything like that. I'm just saying there will be consequences to getting rid of it that might not be desirable.
Yes.
So that's all. Because I don't like it either. It's obviously deep corruption. I totally support Assange. I've always supported Assange. You know, I really like RFK as a person as well. And I do agree that having this cancer, this corruption, is not a good thing. But there will be unintended consequences from removing it, because it's been the thing that's kind of been the sort of the cork on world conflict between the great powers since World War II, right? So removing it will have consequences. And
so I just see everything on that list: the Fed, military-industrial complex, the CIA, Big Pharma. I just see all of these as cancers.
Yeah, they are. They are. But these what you're describing is the structure of the American empire. The American world empire, right? That's what those things are.
Yeah.
But
which at this point is rotten and corrupt.
And I agree. And all world empires become rotten and corrupt. But there's always a price to be paid for trying to clean up the corruption. And that will be a decline in American power. That will be a sort of decline in American prestige. That will be other powers thinking, right, finally, they've lost the self-confidence.
But maybe I'll put this to you. It will be a more organic rollback of that level of influence, because, I mean, their absolute zenith was probably, you know, the first Iraq or second Iraq war, something around that point in the early 90s. That was the US's absolute zenith. I mean, it has been declining.
Sure.
The retreat from Afghanistan, various other things. China was asserting more dominance in its region. You know, that. So I think by removing this cancer, yes, you will get some organic pullback in US hegemony, but it'd be better than the collapse that it's going to get if it lets all of these things, you know, Fed and all the rest of it, continue to do its work.
I agree, but
So,
but again, there's a series of unintended consequences that come from this, and the weakness of the US military is not in the manpower or the equipment; it's in the morale and the leadership. Right. Like there was no reason actually to just pull out of Afghanistan.
Actually, it's not just
militarily.
It's not just the Americans. I mean, take the Russians' approach to the Ukraine war.
Yeah.
If they were to approach it like the Romans, it would have been over a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, even the Russians are constrained by this.
Yeah, less so, but
but also the Russians have a kind of way of war that they're just continuing on, which is just wave after wave.
Yeah.
That's what the Romans would build.
Well, if you blow up the entire city, then you capture the city.
Well, kind of. I mean, that's like the thing is the Romans had a different doctrine, which is just have the best army that can just destroy any other army and just march to their capital and sack it. You know, that was the Roman way of war, and the Russians don't fight like that. Because they can't rely on their own army. So,
good point.
But anyway,
coming back to the Libertarian Party angle,
right?
I was just going to say on that bit, I think that they want to jump behind this. I think they absolutely want to jump behind this. I mean, I know he's not classically a libertarian, but he's close enough. I mean, anybody with anti-Fed on their list,
Ron Paul could definitely have a beer with him, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly that. Now, and I think the leadership should fully back him, because if they take him on board because of what he brings and the prestige, it will, because this, if he did run Libertarian Party for the full ballot status, he would lift the Libertarian Party up considerably in terms of funding and organizational structure and success and all that kind of stuff. So it would be good for them. So they might be tempted to take him on and then try and get into a power struggle with him constantly. They shouldn't do that.
Would that not take away votes from the Republicans, though?
Well, this is the question. So RFK, if he enters the race, is going to get a decent number of votes. Does he take away more votes from Biden, or does he take away more votes from Trump?
I think it depends on the ticket.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's independent, then I think it'll be from Biden. If he's libertarian, I think it'll be from Trump.
Interesting. I think he takes away votes from both of them, but more,
I mean, there will be, a slice on either side, obviously. Yeah. But I think
you think the packaging really matters on that one.
We've seen it. Totally. I mean, you know, it's just people for some reason vote red or blue. They just do. You know, the name is like a nice thing to have, you know, and a cause is a good thing to have as well. But generally, people don't vote for outside third parties. And it's okay, well then, I mean, but I would hope that he would be independent and just siphon votes off Biden, obviously, because I want Trump to win.
Yeah.
I mean, on a personal level, though, I do like RFK.
Yeah.
He seems like a sincere chap.
Yeah.
And he seems to be a genuine, like, good-hearted American,
Yeah.
which is nice.
Yeah.
It's nice to see after the wild ideological ranting and raving of some senile old lunatic.
Yeah. I mean, libertarian might not be such a dirty word for older Democrats, because there, on the
Maybe.
left there is an older strain of
Yeah.
left-wing libertarian.
Yeah,
You don't get them anymore, but it used to be a big thing.
sure.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Let's go sideways slightly, because if he was to cease to be a Democrat and go down a different route, then of course I would only have one favourite Democrat left. No, let's not go there.
Okay.
Right.
So Carl has been in the US, and Saar has been gone. And yeah, while you were gone, I did give away a little bit of your money,
I understand.
quite a bit. Yeah, I basically gave anyone who wants to sign up 50% off. So basically, what's going to happen over the next 48 hours is I'm going to get Chinese burns, and at some point, I'm going to give up the password to the laptop that does the codes. So you've got as long as my resolve can hold before that code goes away. But at some point in the next 24, 48 hours, Sargon code will be Sargon. What I did there, very good. So if you want to get 50% off any tier for next 3 months, use it very quickly, because he is we are now Sar back.
The thing is, the Chinese burn's just going to be so much worse because he's a fat picture of me. It's so much
Is that
worse.
a fat picture of you?
Oh, yeah, that is definitely a fat picture of me. Anyway.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose maybe a bit. Definitely. Anyway, so anyway, talk about Trump. Trump's achievements, because of course we've got to compare RFK to somebody. We've got to compare him to Trump. I'm going to get a bit controversial here. I think that I'm not a fan of Trump's record of achievement. I think all of his achievements were negatives of absences. No, absences of negatives.
I mean, we can relitigate it, but like, he was definitely too moderate.
Yes.
By far.
So, I mean, what were Trump's achievements for me? And tell me if I'm missing any here. Right? No border crisis. I mean, they're left trying to manufacture one, kids in cages, but there was no border crisis under Trump.
Building a wall.
Yeah, there was no economic crisis under Trump.
Yeah. Well, no, no, hang on, come on. Let's give him a bit more credit. Like, the economy seemed to have been booming during Trump, right?
Yes. I mean, I think economies do that when left alone.
Well, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But like, it takes a bit of, in the current state of managerial excess that we're in.
Yes.
The only time they do them?
Yes. Well, yes. Yes. Fair. There was no catastrophic military defeats under Trump.
Yeah.
So
in fact, Trump's international policy was great, actually.
Mm.
Like, Trump actively fostered relationships and peace across various Middle Eastern countries with people like North Korea. Like, relations with Russia seemed...
That was next on my list. There was no loss of America's geopolitical status.
No, it was an improvement. It was an active improvement. I mean, like, the one strike into Syria was actually a stroke of genius that I'm surprised he had the balls to do, to be honest. That
very surgical, very contained.
Everything stopped, and everyone realized, okay, he's prepared to do something. So actually, Trump's foreign policy was great.
Yeah. No loss of dollar status.
Nope.
No energy crisis.
Nope. In fact, no. And
became energy independent.
Yeah, you're totally underselling it. America was an energy exporter, and they had all their reserves full.
Well, I mean, a lot of that was a trend that was already underway from the shale, which he didn't initiate. But yeah,
sure, but
he didn't do anything that screwed anything up.
If there's anything that shows that the executive does matter, is that Joe Biden literally turned all of this on his head within the first year.
Yes. Oh yeah. So that's my primary argument, is that I don't think Washington can make anything better, but they can make things worse very quickly. Biden is a case study in that.
I think they can make some things better, but like, you are right.
Only by dismantling the swamp itself.
Well, yeah. I mean, who knows if, I'd like Trump to govern like Vlad the Impaler if he gets in next time, to be honest. So,
But there is also decisions there. Yet again, I mean, leave it alone is usually the right thing. Take fracking. Okay, you've got fracking, new technology, massive amount of oil is now available in North America. We can make ourselves energy independent. There's two responses to that. There's the Trump one of leave it alone, let them drill.
Mm.
And then there is the one of, this could harm our green revolution.
Yes.
So we'll regulate it and say it causes earthquakes so bad that we're just going to ban the technology. And now we are dependent on the Saudis.
Well,
Good job.
it's more than that. They stopped giving out licenses to drill for oil and things like that, right?
Sure.
So-
I'm saying that the thing that really made America energy independent is the massive amount of oil that was made available by the technology of fracking.
Totally.
So that's a huge change. Whereas, of course, they meddle in much minor ways.
But also, I think that the spirit of the executive, I think, is an important thing to show the country which direction in which you're traveling, right? Because if Trump's like, right, America's open for business, we're going to start drilling, we're going to start fracking, we're going to make loads of money, then people are more willing to take risks and invest in that direction to make things better. So I mean, technically he's hands off, done nothing, but to bring people in that direction, whereas Biden is like, look, we're going to punish you, we're going to stop you from drilling. Like, you can see how everything would contract, right? Why would I bother investing in this climate and stuff like that? So I think to say he's done nothing is not fair. Because I don't think it's inevitable that these things would have happened without him being.
So my point is more this. So I think the way Trump approaches stuff is very much based around personalities.
Sure.
So I think what happens if Trump gets back in, a whole bunch of swamp creatures are introduced to their pension and their golf clubs a couple of years earlier than they would have been anyway. Maybe a few dozen people go to jail. But ultimately, I think Trump just deals with a whole series of personalities. He doesn't address the underlying power structure.
That's true. Yeah.
Right. And for me, the underlying system is crucial. So anybody who's going to go after the Fed, the military industrial complex, the regulatory capture, even if they got a list of negatives next to them, that is so strong for me that I would genuinely, and I know I'm going to lose fans over this, but I would genuinely struggle to pick between the two.
I mean, honestly,
it was RFK and Trump on the ticket.
RFK is vice president, man.
What about RFK with Vivek as his VP?
No,
because Vivek's mini Trump.
He's slimy and has.
Yes,
he's been. He looks like he's grifting.
Yeah,
that's the thing. It's not that I dislike him.
Let me phrase it like this.
Vivek Ramaswamy. Like, 3 years ago, he was just like, average Democrat. And now it's like, oh, I'm ultra MAGA. It's like, sure you are.
Okay, let me put it like this then. There's an election with Biden, Trump, and RFK. Biden wins. We all know the world is getting a worse place. Yeah. If either RFK or Trump win, we know it's getting better. It's just how it gets better.
Or someone's getting popped.
Well, yeah.
But honestly, like, I think there could be a lot said. If Trump was a younger and more nimble navigator, then the narrative of a kind of Joe Biden promised to bring America together, but he did nothing but persecute the Republicans, whereas I'm going to take RFK as my running mate, and we together are actually going to fix this country. That actually, I think, would be a really strong narrative. Anyway.
Maybe that's the announcement on Monday.
Yes. I doubt it, but...
We appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters. You can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Contemplation series, this episode on right-wing wokeism, part 1. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.